Hi there, and thank you for tuning in. I just finished reading this book for the second time actually. It's a book called Photo Basics by Joel Sartore, I think it is pronounced. Looks like this. I'll post a link to it in the description below. And in one of the last chapters he says about backups. He says, backing up your work is as essential as creating it, period. And I couldn't have said it better. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about backups and how I do it and what I think is important to secure that your data is safe. Welcome to my basement. This is the staircase leading down to the basement, and under the staircase here I have a so-called network attached storage. And what that is basically a hard drive, a very large hard drive, actually several very large hard drives sitting on a relatively small server. And the only thing this does is it's able to read and write information and share it via the network. When I work on it from my PC, my main PC sits roughly 4 meters above us here, then it looks like any other drive I can drag and drop and all these things you know from a normal drive. Of course it's not as fast as my normal drive because I have to send the information via the local area network, which is a 100 megabit network, so it's pretty fast. But of course, it can never be as fast as a drive sitting on your PC. But the big advantage of this is, other than it can be shared amongst several PCs on the network, is also, of course, that it gives me a copy. So should my main PC have a hardware issue, then I can use this one. I always have a copy that I can rely on. So this is really a good way of getting some comfort that should you have a hardware failure on your main PC, you have a backup. The problem with this setup is, and why I do not recommend it as a standalone solution, is that the main PC and the backup physically are very close to each other. And in case of fire and theft, I may lose both in one sweep. So let me tell you a little story about theft. Many years back, I used to work for a small IT company, and they had a server room. There wasn't anything called cloud service providers or anything like that. They had a server room in-house where they had all their servers, data servers, print servers, whatever. And they also did the backups in this room. And the way it worked was every Friday afternoon after working hours, someone would go push a button and that would initiate the backup. And then on Monday, the backup would be archived in basically the same room. The problem was that one not so beautiful weekend, someone broke into the company and stole everything, at least everything related to IT. There was back in the day when IT was more, I would say, exclusive or expensive. I know it's expensive today, but back then it was crazy expensive. So they had every motive to clean out everything, meaning every piece of hardware that just had a remote resemblance to anything to do with IT, right? So of course they also ran with the copy, the backup. So the company had an issue. Luckily there was a 1 month old copy that had been stored elsewhere, so that sort of saved them. But I think this goes to illustrate that when you have a physical copy of your data, it's really important that they have physical distance from your original, because if you're a victim of fire or theft, then you run the risk that both your original and your copy is destroyed or stolen in one sweep, and that's super unfortunate, right? And then you have wasted all the time spent doing the backups. So make sure you throw your copy far away, swap it with a friend, put a copy in your summer house, rent a bank box, whatever works for you, but make sure you have these two physically separated so fire and theft do not hit you in one go if they go for one location. I actually thought that when you had your data with a cloud service provider, then it would be safe because they would have copies of your data, they would replicate, they would have hardware failovers and all of these nice things that are, from a technical perspective, necessary for your data to be safe, right? They are professionals, they know what they're doing, this is the only thing they do, so they are super specialized and and you pay them for this service, right? But apparently it isn't always so. This poor guy, a Danish musician and producer, he lost most of his data, even though it was with a cloud service provider. And the reason was that they had a fire. I must admit that they were hit hard. So in all fairness, this was a dramatic event, right? But the thing is that cloud service provider, cloud service, it doesn't happen in a cloud. It happens on planet Earth, right? On planet Earth, we still have fire and theft. So this is exactly what happened to this service provider. And the outcome of this was that he lost all his data because the procedures to restore the data, they didn't work. They couldn't figure out how to restore the data. I don't know what the technical issue was. I'm not into that many details. But the effect of this was he lost all of his data, most of the data at least, and he had to restore it from other sources. So my point with telling this story is that you need to be careful when you choose your cloud service provider. If that's the way you want to go when it comes to backing up, you need to be really sure that these guys, the provider you choose, they know what they're doing and that they have good procedures. Otherwise, you may end up like this poor guy, losing most of your data and having to build it from scratch. Another thing to think about is that if you, like me, take 15,000 pictures a year or even more maybe, and you shoot raw like me, that's a lot of information. And of course you don't notice when you upload it, incrementally, on a daily, on weekly, monthly, whatever you do basis, because it's not that much data when you take it incrementally. But over a year, over several years, it becomes a lot of data. And as such, it can be really difficult to change provider later on because it will simply take so long for you to move the data from your current provider to a new provider, because you will need to move that via the internet basically. And that is not a fast line. So you can do the math, sit down and do a little calculation and say, in 3 years time, how much data have I got? And then see how long time it will take to switch provider. You may find that actually you are locked to the first provider you chose because it will take you so long time to move the data, of course, provided you have lots of data. So think about this and maybe use the cloud service provider primarily to store your gold, meaning your award-winning pictures, or pictures of friends and family that are really important to you, and then maybe had another way of storing the bulk of the information. So as you maybe have concluded from the video this far, I'm not entirely happy with the network attached storage in my basement, nor with the cloud service provider. I use both of them actually because the NAS will give me a backup. So if I have a hardware failure up here, that will solve that issue. But fire and theft, it won't solve. And the cloud service provider, I only store, a little selection of my images, those where I really want to have an extra copy. So I actually use these two solutions as my secondary backups. And that's actually my recommendation for you, is to have more than one backup, so you have more sources to go to, even though some of them may be a little bit vulnerable, right? But the heart and the backbone in my backup is actually this little thing here. It's a Western Digital product called My Passport. I think it's a little bit strange name, but what it is, it's just a physically small hard drive, but in terms of how much it contains, it's quite impressive. This copy here will hold 4 terabytes, and you can get them up to 5 terabytes. You can also get them down to 1 terabyte. So there is a range of options. They are also different colors. You don't need to buy it in red. I just like the red one here. And the reason why I like this one is it's super simple to use. First of all, there's only one cable. It gets power via the USB 3 cable here. It can also work with the USB 2. And you just put it in, and then the PC finds out that, hey, there's a new drive, and it works just like an internal drive on your PC. You can drag and drop, and it's relatively fast. Of course, not as fast as it's sitting on the bus on your CPU as an internal drive does, but it is very fast and much faster than the network attached storage. Also, I can quickly move this one around. If I want to, I can go traveling with it. I have done that, and it works really well as a traveling companion, doing backups of your images. And also if I want to put a copy here in my summer house or in my car to avoid this issue of, fire and theft, then this one will do all of that. And I really enjoy this one, and they are not crazy expensive. I will post an affiliate link to them so you can see what the current price is on Amazon. And I can really recommend this product. I will say though, there are many other products that are, does the same as this one. So it's just a coincidence that I happen to like this one. So of course, buy the one that you find to your liking. But I find this one to be a really good product that meets my requirements. If you are a Windows user, then there is some software that follows along. I think for doing more structured backups and so on, I don't use that. I like KISS. I like keeping it simple, stupid. So I just export from Lightroom. And if you want to see how I do that, I can do a new video about that. But basically what I do is I export as a catalog a certain amount of data. So of course I don't export all I got, but just the latest part. And that works really well, and then it creates a folder with that dedicated Lightroom catalog, and then I can restore that. And it's very important that you test your ability to restore, because when you use a solution like this, the restoring part, should your main copy fail or be stolen, the restore is on you. So it's very important that you test the restore procedure. So that was my 2 cents about backups. I hope this was useful and you got a few things to think about. As always, thank you for watching. Take care. Bye bye.